not bad, right? I'm gonna get there. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
One big breath.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dr. BeeWell. I'm your host, Steve Ivanovsky. On today's episode, we have an extra special giddy up for everybody. The gentleman who we're having on today is a true pioneer in the space. He's been crushing it since 2014 when he started his own company. He's also worked for a couple multi-state operators, and he crushed that into settling down. He's currently the CEO of a top 10 dispensary in Massachusetts, Berkshire Roots. He's a board member of the Association of Cannabis Specialists. He is a father, a soon-to-be grandfather. He's a small business advocate. He is a lover of the medicine. He's a lover of the fun. My friend, James Winokur.
Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate being here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Maybe a lot to cover, but happy to go wherever you take us.
Oh, I love to hear that, and I appreciate you for coming on the show so much. We've been talking about this, for a while, since we met, and decided to bring our brands together. What which is a super cool thing.
It almost happened as soon as we met.
It literally almost happened as soon as we met. Right. Let's touch base on that. So for everyone, the listeners out there, the honey that we do, Dr. BeeWell is our product manufacturer in Massachusetts is Berkshire Roots. They're our partners there. They've been incredible throughout this whole process. But I'm curious what your first impressions were of me.
So number one, obviously everybody loves your energy. We were at this event at Mass Mocha, Solid Sound, which was really a fun event. And somehow fate put us at the same spot, 2 tents next to each other, Berkshire Roots and BeeWell Honey. And I had been looking for unique products that we could bring into Massachusetts, manufacture and distribute. And as soon as I heard what you're doing, like, we got to have honey in our lineup. How do we do this?
That's it.
Really excited about the product when we tried it, and we kept this relationship going. So I'm really happy it's coming to fruition.
Me too, man. When you came over here, and it's funny, I'll give you my first impression now. So I'm at Mass Mocha, Solid Sound. Mass Mocha is like if you've never been there, it's this incredible. It's the largest museum that's what it stands for, Mass Mocha Museum of Contemporary Art. It's the largest museum of contemporary art in the North America, and it's an incredible space. There's so much love. There's so much, the vibe there is just so incredible. And so I'm going there and I'm working. I'm doing, I'm selling BeeWell, and but these events are like just great for me. I love to do these events. Once you get there and everything's set up, you can just have fun and dance around, and you come over to me and you're chatting to me about all this stuff. And I talked to a few members of your team prior, and not knowing that you were the CEO of this company. CEOs of these companies usually don't attend events like this. So I didn't think that this was. And so here I am, just being myself and being me. And you come over, and then we had like 2 conversations until like the third conversation, maybe even like on the second day, when you finally let me know, like, oh yeah, I'm the CEO of this company.
Yeah.
Because I think the conversation had started, because you're a musician,
right?
And
right.
So
that's true.
Yeah, giddy up.
Right.
We have a band called Midlife Crisis, right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay, I can't wait to see you guys play sometime.
As we now say, we're a little bit beyond the midlife crisis.
Right. But when you started it, yeah. I think we're all in age, and that's what Dr. BeeWell is all about, is trying to longevity and keeping people alive. So who knows? Maybe you are only halfway through.
That'd be great.
Yeah, giddy up. Yeah. So I just thought you was like cool, music guy, in the cannabis space, and then when you let me know that you were the CEO of this, unbelievable top 10 dispensary, I was like, wow, this is who I want to be. This is who I want to be doing business with, and this is who I'm going to be doing business with, and I'm so glad that that's going to be coming to fruition.
Yeah, it's really awesome, this space, because there's so many new things that we can do. Berkshire Roots is a great company. I joined December 2019, and relatively small. We were about 70 people at the time. It felt like a family business. I grew up in a family business and thought, yeah, this is the place for me. We've grown. We added a dispensary in Boston, but still have that kind of family feeling. And then, to your opening, really trying to find ways to support other companies, other entrepreneurs, inventors who want to get in the cannabis space. So we're doing that as well.
Yeah, hell yeah. Now, now it didn't start at Berkshire Roots though. You were in 2014 is when you got started. That's correct?
It is. I was at a big software company in the Boston area. A colleague who had left called me one day asking if I could help him maybe with some marketing for an invention that he had. I said, sure, whatever you need. And it turned out to be a cannabis vaporizer product. I'm like, what the heck is that?
Cool.
I had no idea. I was not involved in the cannabis space at all. Then when I did my own research and said, this is going to be huge. So 2014, early days. And we've co-founded a company with 3 of us. And we brought on other people and we did the traditional startup, go out and raise money. Cannabis space, obviously a little more difficult.
Yep.
Raise the money, design the product, manufacture the product in China. It's a very Keurig style device. So we got known as the Keurig of cannabis. And
That's
we actually
cool.
had a bunch of team members, engineers, and our chairman of the board, former executives at Keurig.
Oh, cool.
So the melding of that was, really great. We did create enough product to start selling them in a pilot program. And then our last round of funding, we ended up selling the company, which is fine.
Yeah.
Helped us actually in a lot of ways. But it was a great entree into the industry. I was traveling the country, really the world. I was in Canada and Australia, as well as all over the U.S., learning about the plant and becoming really a patient myself.
Yeah,
because of that.
Were you a user beforehand?
I was not.
Wow.
The typical high school story everybody has, but really nothing between high school and, 2014.
Wow.
There's a lot of decades in between.
Yeah, and did you immediately start to partake when in 2014?
When we started making this thing happen, I said, well, if I'm going to be in this industry, I should know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So not only was I learning, but started, experimenting, so to speak, and then connected with Dr. Jordan Tischler and said, I really should get my medical card because when Massachusetts opened, it was medical only.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had my medical card, since the early days of Massachusetts.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool, and I'm excited to talk about Dr. Tischler and the in the ACS, and we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Sure.
So you're crushing it with, and the name of that company was Cannacorp? Cannacorp. Okay.
Yep.
Love that. Okay, and so it was a home vaporizer, right? Because it's a Keurig, so it's like not when people are thinking vaporizers now, a lot of them are thinking like vape pens.
Correct,
and like oils and concentrates. Like that's not what it was.
It was a desktop unit. I used to use it at home myself every night before I went to bed.
So
kind of a
cool.
robot.
Yep.
So a pod filled with ground cannabis. Put the pod in the machine. Machine does all the work, creates vapor and captures it, and then you inhale it somewhat like a water bottle, inhaling it out of a container.
So,
and super simple, nothing to clean, nothing to burn.
Super clean way to smoke it too. Vapor is it's probably the best way to consume it. Maybe an edible might be better, but just opposed to smoking direct inhalation, vapor is definitely better.
Yeah, we'll get into it, but there are different reasons to use different forms, and that vaporization is still what I do. I use a handheld device, but vaporization for me is still the best.
Vaporization is still the best.
Combination though.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to get into this.
Yeah, tell me, teach me.
Particularly for sleep, that's my bedtime routine.
Okay.
I've got my handheld vaporizer with flower,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got my edibles. So it's my get to sleep, stay asleep medicine.
Get to sleep, stay asleep. That's what I find that the edibles are great at keeping me asleep.
Right.
I often don't have a tough time going to bed for whatever reason, which is kind of odd because my brain is going 1,000 miles a minute,
Right.
and maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But I can usually go to sleep.
Right.
But then staying asleep sometimes is difficult for me. I wake up 2 or 3 hours later, and I find when I take between 10 to 25 milligrams of an edible, in my case, honey, it's great.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. It makes me feel really, really refreshed the next day.
Right. Yeah. I've tried, different forms of edibles. Right now I'm into capsules.
Yep.
And we have a great chocolate bar, so it's a little bit of a treat.
Yeah.
For my peanut butter chocolate bar.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You need a little, sweet tooth isn't always bad,
Right.
And that's another thing that we're gonna, we'll touch base on today is that how, cannabis, we're both guys who, you're on the board of, the ACS, and I'm a doctor of pharmacy who really cares about the medical benefit and the medical side of it. But cannabis can be fun too, right?
It can. It's just so odd. the whole concept that we started with medical, then we go to adult use. I really support the medical side, but I certainly understand it's fun too. And, we should embrace that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I find that like a lot of the companies who have gone that route, who have, started in the medical space where they really had to learn the medicine. They had to learn, how patients were and they're still dealing in the medical space, because a lot of these companies, especially in Massachusetts, some in Maine decided that, hey, it's not worth it. I'm going to go adult use, and that's where my business model is going to be now.
Right.
But in Massachusetts, most places, they just continue to operate as medical and as adult use.
Yeah, there's few of us. We are co-located out in Pittsfield with both medical and recreational. We started that way. In Boston, we started with adult use, and we're adding medical.
Cool.
So hopefully by May, maybe June, we'll be set up to sell medical in Boston.
Okay, that's awesome. And so, that's kind of cool. You have two very diverse, different groups. You have, Pittsfield, the Berkshires, and then you have East Boston. Definitely different, diverse populations, just different markets almost entirely.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see those differences. So Pittsfield, if you're unfamiliar, the most western part of Massachusetts, right on the New York border. We have a lot of vacation homes. A lot of people have second homes there. The community itself, thrives in the cannabis world, very cannabis-friendly community. But it's more like a big box store, right? And people come in and buy quantity, let's say.
Yep.
Right? In East Boston, it's more like the local bar.
Cool.
Like, the old TV show Cheers. It's like where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And we see people come in multiple times a week, multiple times
Cool.
in the course of a week. And it's kind of like, hey, Norm, how are you? What do you want today? You want another pre-roll?
Right.
We kind of all know that. Right?
And it's kind of cool because like that is what it is, the foot traffic in Boston and bring people in like that, going to the bar, that's cool. It will be fascinating to see that social consumption. That's on the docket this year for Maine, probably going to go. So people are going to be, that's just going to be a thing. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, social consumption, I think, should be part of every licensing. It's done different ways or held off in different places. Vegas, obviously, that's a big thing. They're opening that up.
Yep.
I think for a lot of people, there's not a good place to consume if you have an apartment or you have some place where you're living and you're not allowed to consume.
Yeah.
So one of the things in Massachusetts, early days, it's in the regs, but the governor said, let's hold off on that until we get recreational really going. And part of the discussion was, hey, there are people who can't consume at home. Mm-hmm. It's, against the rental rules or whatever living situation they're in. Right. So it makes sense for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, for sure. Now, where is it at in Mass?
There was supposed to be a pilot program years ago. It's coming back to discussion now. I think probably in the next year or two, we'll see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's going to be a boon for the industry and just going to be really fascinating to see. It's like, and when people talk about like the safety aspect of it, it's like literally go on every corner and look for a bar. Like, come on, guys. Like, these people are, we just, and there's the, sure, we have drunk driving laws and those exist, and those should exist for cannabis too. If there's a, whatever, if there's a, somebody's completely inebriated, I don't, and I don't even really know, but it's like, right. It's just so, it's such a challenging discussion to have because it's been taboo for so long.
Yeah. And I certainly get it. We don't want to include cannabis in another problem, but I think there's ways to handle that. And I think it's much more reasonable for cannabis consumers.
Yeah, imagine this, James. Imagine you start doing social consumption out there. More people start socially consuming with cannabis. They're being safe about it. I would venture to guess that drunk driving would probably go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that generally in states that legalized.
Yeah, we definitely have 100%.
Right.
So you're right. So you sold Cannacorp. Before you got to Berkshire Roots, you had a little bit of a detour and worked for for a multi-state operator, which is that's a kind of sometimes in cannabis that word can be trigger for for right. some people. So right. What was that? Can you tell me about that experience a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I define multi-state operator as a public company that has licenses and operates them in multiple states. So it was actually a really good opportunity for me to move from the ancillary device to being really in the cannabis industry. I was at Marimed based in Norwood. I was there for a year, co-leading what we call the product group, which was all about bringing our brands to others to make and distribute and taking licensed products in to manufacture and distribute.
Okay.
But generally, because of Cannacorp, I knew the executives there, and they said, "Hey, here's specific role. We'd love you to be part of that, and where else you can help, be great." So I ended up dabbling in other areas
Cool.
operationally. Really great experience there. I'm still very friendly with a lot of the people there. John Levine was just named the permanent CEO there.
Cool.
Bob Fireman had been the co-founder and CEO for many years. He just passed away. I don't know if you know that. Talk about pioneers in the industry, Bob. Big pioneer.
Yeah. No, I'm familiar, and I think it's like you said. Everyone thinks that the multi-state operators are bad and it's taboo. It's in some cases, sure, but that it's capitalistic society, and we needed that to push it forward and for it to become for the stigma to now it's like, okay, now you want people like me and to get a chance, sure, but we did need people like that in the beginning to figure out the legs, to have the high-powered lawyers to come in and to really start figuring that stuff out. I wouldn't be able to sell my product in Massachusetts if it wasn't for you having that experience with Marimed and doing that. So I think it's great.
Yeah, all those experiences led to me thinking about how can Berkshire Roots help others and bring products in, and obviously help ourselves by bringing in interesting, unique, products to fit missing categories.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that's something that you guys have done at Berkshire Roots quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, as everybody else, as a vertically integrated company, we did a great job earning a reputation for our cultivation, flower first, and we have a great reputation there. We started expanding our extraction lab capabilities, earned a really great reputation there. And then we got to a point recently where we said, hey, let's start helping others. One of our first products was an oral spray mist. So again, a little different kind of product. A company called Yellow Labs, the inventor, founder based in Rhode Island, looking for distribution elsewhere, had set up in Ohio, wanted to get set up in Massachusetts. We actually met at NECAN last year.
Cool.
So that relationship was fostered, and we started making his product.
Okay, cool.
So similar story to your honey product.
Yeah, right. You just you met him and you thought it was cool what he was saying, and so that's Ander Wensberg.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
And Ander, I know Yellow Labs it's actually a play on words, right?
It is, right.
Yeah.
So he gets this dual benefit of the name because lab sounds like good. It's being made in a lab, which is terrific. He's got great formulations, but he's also a dog lover.
Oh,
so
cool.
he owns 2 Yellow Labs. It happens that I own 2 Yellow Labs. So recently, last summer, we got together down in Rhode Island, took our dogs to the beach so they could meet. We had a great beach day with the 4 labs, and he actually wrote a little article about dog people and cannabis people and making that connection.
Oh, that's awesome, and we'll put that in the thumbnails for the show, so
cool.
the listeners can definitely look for it. That's so cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So now that was kind of where you got the products going. You joined Berkshire Roots, and you said, okay, product first. That's what we got to do. We got to get the best. You guys got known for being, cultivators. Won some awards.
Yes. Yep.
So that I know that a long list of awards actually.
Yes.
And so then there's the same type of deal for the extraction. Ladies and gentlemen, this whole setup to this team, this production facility, when you get there and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. The team there is just incredible. Kayla, Chris, Matt, you guys have been awesome to work with, and I can't wait to continue to work with you guys and to keep pushing this forward.
Yeah, it really is an awesome team. I feel so lucky. I'm knocking on wood here on the desk. Dennis is the head cultivator, Graham second in command in cultivation. They just do a tremendous job there. Kayla is our extraction lab director that you mentioned. She produces textures like people can't believe. And Chris is our kitchen director, infused product director. So he works on your product, obviously, and other kinds of infused product like Yellow Labs. And then Matt, who you mentioned, is the overall production director. So he's making sure all of our production is running smoothly, quality control, inventory control, all that stuff. Then on the retail side, we've, earned a great reputation. We have 4 Best of the Berkshires in a row. Or the dispensary, which is inclusive of the products, but Tam and Brittany, who run our retail operations, do a tremendous job.
Yeah, see that it's really like you guys got it all going on, and to be truly successful, in this space long term, I think that's what it needs to be. Could you speak a little bit about how the community of Berkshire Roots has made that made that possible? You said you came from a family-owned business. That's what you grew up in. And you kind of felt the same way, leading this as the CEO?
Yeah, it's been a great opportunity because of that similarity. I grew up in a franchise business, Culligan Water Conditioning. So my grandfather actually started a franchise in Connecticut in the early 60s. And my father joined him. So I kind of grew up in that. All my summer jobs were working for my father.
Okay.
We built that business. I formally joined after 2 years after college. We built that business, have one of the top franchises in the country for Culligan.
Oh, wow. Giddy up.
So it was a 11-year career doing that. And really, when you're the business owner, co-owner, you wear all the hats. But I really gravitate towards marketing. So with the opportunity to sell that business, I came back to the Boston area. My wife's from the Boston area. Went back to Boston College where I got my undergrad to get an MBA and got into high tech. It was the year 2000. So it was .com. Everything was .com, IT, technology. Ended up at a software company.
Okay.
$1 billion. They were the founders of computer-aided design software. So the inventor of 3D CAD modeling started this company.
Wow.
So you can imagine back in the day when people were doing everything on paper, this was world-changing. Right?
Revolutionary. And it's kind of like, I guess that helps me speak to why you are like you are. A guy who just comes up to, a small business owner at a festival and says, hey, let's giddy up.
Yeah. I mean, I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. At the big company, we were a relatively small department, but controlling a large part of the revenue. But I was allowed to be very entrepreneurial within this big company. So I've always had that spirit. It's always been recognized. People have allowed me to do that, which is great. And the Berkshire Roots ownership is awesome. They are very entrepreneurial. Different businesses that they've owned. One's a lawyer, actually a politician as well. The two cousins who started this company come from Pittsfield. They knew the community well. A lot of acceptance for what they plan to do and what we have done, which is add a lot of jobs. So we have
how many jobs?
We have over 100 people that work in the Pittsfield area and another 20 or so in Boston.
That's a giddy up.
Yeah. So, really helpful. The community very supportive because of that. We run a very clean operation, whether it's the city or CCC regulators. We try and achieve all that we can to be at that top level of clean environment, which you saw.
Yeah. Oh man, it's
running a great production facility, meeting all the requirements.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably exceeding all the requirements. I've been in quite a few of these facilities now, and yours is, hard to beat. It's beautiful. Everything is so clean. Everything is so well run. And then on top of that, you guys are taking the time to put it back into the products. First thing I come in, I'm spouting off about dyes and all this stuff and how, we can't have this and that. And Chris is like, dude, we haven't been using dyes in our gummies for a long time.
Yeah. So it's one of the things that I certainly brought there. Some of it was already there, but when we talked about product originally, and because of my background at Marimed, so let's do what we can do to remove any artificial ingredients, any artificial colors, and we, quickly transitioned to that. Some products already were that way, but now all of our products are that way.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool that you're, getting to take all this experience from your life, and that's kind of what it is. Like, and what the show is about too. It's about being you, about being yourself, and like I feel like, authentically, you're finding this. You're a guy who. Is going through, some corporate businesses, but family business, and then doing some corporate stuff, and then, just finding your own way in cannabis. I mean, what did your partner and your kids think in 2014?
So fortunately, my kids were a little older by that point, and my wife just supportive of everything I've done in my
isn't it incredible
crazy thoughts about things that I think might be fun or interesting. She has held down the fort. She has been so good with allowing me to, do the different things that I've done, and certainly couldn't do any of what I've described so far without her support. So that's tremendous. My kids, of course, thought, hey, that's really cool.
Right, yeah.
There's a little, I think, notion that I play in a band. You mentioned, before. I don't know they thought that was so cool. But maybe I crossed over the cool line when I got involved with cannabis.
Yeah, exactly right. They were like, oh, my old man, he plays in a band. Rolling my eyes.
Right.
oh, my old man, he plays in a band and he's smoking a bone after. Okay, giddy up. And now he's leading the company, and he started a cannabis. Like, okay, giddy up. Like, I can get behind this.
My youngest daughter does tell me when she's dating and eventually tells people what I do. She said, "Dad, it's a problem that you're cooler than I am." Like, I'm not that cool. Okay,
that is awesome. Exactly. You've gone from being the guy who the dad who wasn't cool. Now you're just too cool. It's
perspective.
Yeah.
Get to know me. I'm not that cool.
I think you're that cool. Okay, so let's talk just a little bit more about the community, because I know you've been crushing it with us, with the honey and Dr. BeeWell.
Right.
You've been crushing it with Yellow Labs. But I know that there's there's a woman-owned company that you've been dealing with that
Yes.
you brought on. And then as well, I think a California partner, right? That you brought on?
Yeah, absolutely. So Angela Arena has gotten involved on her own with cannabis, but she was part of the Cannacorp team, so that's how I know her. She started her own CBD company, started a store in the Marblehead area, and now is moving into THC. And she came to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to formulate products with THC and have you guys manufacture and distribute." Like, great. She has a real focus in her formulations specifically for females. That's her target audience, which I think she's got great product, great ideas. She's a great marketer. So really excited to bring her product on. And then in a recent trip to California, as we were looking for cool, different things to bring to Massachusetts, we met with Big Pete's Treats. If you don't know Big Pete's Treats, they were one of the original edibles companies in California, baked goods.
So one of the original edible companies in the country then?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Big Pete's a real person.
Oh, giddy up.
Yep. He started making cookies at home and it grew into a business, and he has family members involved. His son, Pete Jr., is our main contact there. So it is a family business. They do really well in California and only recently decided to expand outside California. So they are a small family business trying to, again, make their way in the national scene.
Yeah.
So we just decided that this would be a great product to add for us and get it out to the Massachusetts market.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I think it's so cool how you're creating this little portfolio of small businesses that you're working with and trying to bring with you. And I think that's honestly where the success is going to be in this space, is people who are doing this. And that's obviously why I'm running my business like I am, is because that's how, all boats, all tides, whatever the saying is, the tide raises all boats, it's so true. It's, if you can find people, that you can work with and that you can help leverage each other up, then it's just going to be optimum.
Yeah. And, it's partly looking for unique products, as I just described. It's partly the people behind it. So when they're passionate, they're inventors, they've got an idea about marketing and branding to support the entree into the market. You need that to go along with it. And we Berkshire Roots are saying, well, we can't think of everything and do everything. There are people that have these great ideas. They've already established something, either formulations or they're in market. Like, let's work together and make that happen for everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool how you you approach that topic as well. At least how you approached it with me. And I know that you're going to be giving a talk, at NECAN on the 11th. I'm not sure if this episode will air before then or afterwards, but I'm sure that the people will be able to get some type of webinar of this presentation that James is going to be giving on small businesses or not small businesses in general, but just
It's
licensing.
really on brand. So there's a panel discussion. There's 3 lawyers and me. So the idea of the panel is, if you have a company in Massachusetts or a brand in Massachusetts, how do you expand it out? So I just told you my experiences, whether at Marimed and Berkshire Roots or even Cannacorp, those were licensing deals.
Yep.
So I'm representing the operational side on what to do with brands. So that'll be really interesting. I can't wait for the Q&A part of it, because it's really difficult. It is not easy to establish a brand and really get it into the market.
Yeah, it's as I've learned, it's super, super, super challenging. And you need to be really passionate about it. Right. You need to care about it. You need to not worry about hey, it might be an 80-hour week. It might be an 80-hour week this week. And, that's just how I want to exist, because it's if I can have, the brand is me, the brand is me and what I'm trying to push forward into the world. And I think that cannabis is a great avenue for me to do that. And so I think it's the only way,
Yeah, it really does take that personal touch for the people who are selling it. So the retailers that we are presenting these products to, and then their bud tenders / register agents. They really need to understand what's the differentiator. What am I telling my customers? And there's no one better than the inventor, the founder of the company, to really express that. So like with Yellow Labs, it's actually a husband and wife team. Andrew and his wife, Lisa, they're out there with us or on their own going to meet with some of these dispensary owners and really explain their motivation, their intent with the product, and why they think it's a great differentiator, whether it's cost or formulation. That's what you really need to grow a brand.
Yeah, and Massachusetts dispensaries, giddy up, buckle up, because I'm coming.
Yeah,
I'm coming for you. Everyone's going to be having the Dr. BeeWell honey.
You will have a good time meeting customers and talking to those register agents. It's a blast.
Yeah, I can't wait for that portion of it. That's I like to get out there and meet people, boots on the ground and do stuff like this and have conversations. And, I think that's where I have value as well. So I just, that part of it, I can't wait,
Yeah, it's going to be great.
We're close. We're hoping to have the honey, on the shelves in the next month or, next month and a half. So,
yeah. And, when you go out there, it's different. What you're doing is different. And we need to find a path to get people's attention. But once they kind of understand, oh, there's an infused honey, but it's not just, I could do this at home, and you've got your specialty as a pharmacist to explain why you've taken some time to figure out how to do this,
Yeah, exactly. And why there's benefit to it, the specific formulation as well as the honey and just trying to use the best possible ingredients as the vehicle is so important.
And there's a do-it-yourself aspect to it, and we've kind of entered that a little bit. And I think your product could be a combination of something I just use as is, or I combine into something else. So it is potentially a do-it-yourself component. Mm-hmm. We recently added seasonings to our lineup.
Cool.
So we have 4 different flavor seasonings.
I love it.
Obviously, you're going to add that to something else.
Yeah, right. And just suck it down the seasoning.
Right.
But I think that's so great. I think people are really starting to wanting to cook again, which is cool. There's like a revelation happening. At first it was just like, oh no, give me the edibles. You can make the edibles. Cool. Now give them to me. And I hadn't seen a homemade brownie in 10 years. But now that stuff's starting to come back, and I think it's because it is a cool thing. It's a fascinating thing. People have been home brewing and forever, so it's like people are growing at home and doing that. So it's like, why wouldn't they be making their own edibles? And not everyone wants to deal with cannabis oil or just deal with straight flour and have to do the extraction yourself.
Absolutely,
whether it's ethanol or whatever. But they, having some honey or having seasonings, having something you can add to food, I think is super cool.
Yeah. In fact, we were talking about Big Pete's Treats, which is baked goods. They're pre-made cookies, but they also make a can of butter, which is part of making the cookies.
Oh, cool.
And in California, fairly recently, they started selling that separately for a do-it-yourself version.
All right.
So we will make can of butter for sale, so you can go make your brownies or your cookies on your own too.
Right.
Right.
Okay, cool. I love that. So that's we've hit the small companies that you guys are, that you're currently working with. Now that's a giddy up. Now it's not the only thing that you guys do. You also have engaged with some business with some bigger brands.
Absolutely. So we talked about medical versus recreational. There's also small versus big, right? And we are generally a family business, small company. We love our brand, but we recognize that people are looking for either new stuff or brands that they've heard of. We were very fortunate to work with the Cookies brand, which is now the biggest brand in the world. They're in multiple countries and all over the U.S. Mm-hmm. And we have the exclusive retail rights in Berkshire County for the Cookies brand. So we're not the manufacturer. We're buying those products from a manufacturer in Massachusetts, but we are in Berkshire County, exclusive retailer, and we sell those products in Boston. Great relationship with Cookies. Love the Cookies guys. They have their concept, which is really relying on Berner, the founder. So it's a music connection. It's, rap artist. It's a lot of stuff on social media. It's got great visibility. We actually are an official Cookies Corner, they call it. So we took part of our Pittsfield dispensary and outfitted it to be a Cookies branded place with shelving and the packaging and all that. So when you go into our store, you get a little bit of Cookies experience when you go in there. Yeah,
I think that's really cool. The dispensary up here, East Coast Cannabis, who we had Dana Brewerly, the CEO of that outfit. We had him on the show, and they're the product manufacturer for cookies up here.
Right.
So I think that's great. And I just to let Cookies know, maybe we start throwing some ad revenue over to Dr. BeeWell, because I'm definitely giddying you guys up.
Good point.
Yeah, that's how it goes, baby. I'm gonna be I'll be hitting them up after this.
Right.
That would be great, getting the largest cannabis company in the in the world to to sponsor the podcast.
Sponsored by.
It's funny, exactly, sponsored by.
Right.
Giddy up.
Yep.
Okay, so that's been a great relationship. You guys, everything's been going good. People have the visibility. You have the it's great because you can have different. You said you're reaching different people. These are younger people. People who are in Gen Z. Some younger millennials. In the rap game who've been pushing cookies forward for forever.
Right.
So it's like to capture that market is huge.
Yeah, I mean, they're also a big apparel company, which is how they also get visibility. So it's just nice to have a recognized brand in the store. People love our product. We, in our store, we outsell the third parties that we bring in, exponentially. So people really love our products. But it's nice to be able to address people who are looking for something they've known or heard of, in the world generally.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's just kind of different, it's just something different. You have somebody who's coming in who's been, come into to BR for quite some time, and they've been getting their great BR strains.
Right.
And then they're just like, oh, well, maybe I'm doing something different this weekend. I'd like to, try something a little bit different. And so just having that offering, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you guys, you're going to be, partnering, you are partnering with, and you're going to be releasing this at NECANN. You have another big brand that you're going to be announcing.
We are. This is, again, opportunity knocks. Do you walk through the door or not? So we talked about our meeting, and coincidental that we were next to each other. I was introduced to someone from a connection to Berkshire Roots who worked for the company Heavy Metal Entertainment. Heavy Metal is the comic book, graphic novel, 1970s founded.
These are as I'm remembering it, Heavy Metal. I'm two older brothers, 5 and 6 years older than me. I remember being like a fifth, sixth grader, and my brothers, having these graphic novels, these graphic comics, and me not being able to see them because they were had some nudity in there. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Absolutely, it is certainly a fun brand. It's meant for adults. It is that Comic-Con kind of flavor, and they have multiple properties. It's probably best known for a 1981 movie called Heavy Metal, which was actually produced by Ivan Reitman, believe it or not.
Cool.
Had voiceovers from people like John Candy and Eugene Levy, had this soundtrack from the top rock bands. Cheap Trick is in there, Blue Oyster Cult. So you wouldn't necessarily call them heavy metal, but they were heavy rock at the time. Heavy metal sort of became more used as a genre for music after that movie came out. Wow. So they're connected to music. They're connected to this Comic-Con feel.
Because heavy metal wasn't really like a music genre before this movie.
Not quite the term that we're now all used to.
Right,
It was sort of in the background.
Cool.
Right? It became much more visible after that movie. So I approached Tommy, who's the head of studio, recently hired, as they are resurrecting the brand. And his job is to create new animated features, TV, film, live action. And he has a very good interest in cannabis, as the company does. And a lot of their consumers are cannabis consumers.
Yeah.
It just seemed to make all the sense in the world. So we said, I think we can connect these two. And that's what we've been doing, say, for the last year, is putting together a heavy metal brand with a full lineup of products under that name. So we're going to announce it at NECANN, and we're going to make it available April 1st in Massachusetts at a select number of retail partners. And we think it's just going to be a lot of fun. So yes, there's the medical side. Yes, there's the fun side. I think in the Northeast, we're a little behind on the fun side. Out West, some of those brands are much more on the fun side. So I think this will go over really well here.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. So you're going to have a full line of retail items. So you'll have retail products. So you'll have, concentrates, edibles.
All the major categories: flower, pre-rolls, blunts, infused blunts.
Oh, so cool.
Concentrates, vape carts, edibles, which will be our chews and chocolate.
That's so cool. And so are you gonna, and you'll sell these at your store retail, and then you'll wholesale these to to your other partners?
Correct. So I don't know this has happened before, but we're attempting, and I think we can do it, is synchronized launch. So this brand available at select retailers at the same time on April 1st.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes me think that, we'll let these guys do the first synchronized launch, and then Dr. BeeWell will come out and do the second synchronized launch.
Yeah.
We'll learn a little bit from it.
Yeah, it's been great to talk to, because we've been only discussing it within our four walls. So only recently in the last 10 days have we revealed this to these potential wholesale buyers, our retail partners, and their eyes just lit up. Like, this is going to be great. The industry needs something like this. Massachusetts needs something like this. So the already acceptance, from the people who run the stores has been terrific.
That sounds incredible. Like, you do have to worry about that, of course, like starting this whole new brand that you guys already have a brand, they're already buying products from you. So figuring out how to, and it's marketing. It's, figuring out the right way to market. And you kind of decided, like, hey, we can't do this all on our own, and it's going to be way better and a lot more fun if we try to include some of these partners that are, that are iconic.
Absolutely. And, part of it is being an interactive experience. So there's going to be a lot of connection back to heavy metal. It won't just be the product. The packaging is beautiful. We have a graphic designer in-house named Jane. She's taken all this great artwork from the collection at Heavy Metal and figured out how to put it into the packaging. There's a lot of Easter eggs. People will have fun taking a box and opening it and seeing artwork that they didn't know was going to be in there. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And I think that Jane is also so cool.
Yeah.
Jane is awesome.
She's great. She's been fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's awesome to work with.
Yeah.
I think it's really awesome you guys are bringing new brands into the space. I think that it's really awesome that you guys have that community focus and how you're doing it. And, we talk about it, you and I personally talk about it a lot. Just there's a medical side to it, and that's such a giddy up, and it's so amazing that we've literally just started to scratch the surface of that.
Right.
That the application is going to grow exponentially. But it's also important to let people know that, hey, it is a medicine, but it's not. It doesn't have to just be a medicine. It can also be fun, and it can be just to go out and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you want to talk about the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists on the medical side.
Well, yeah, 100%. That would be great. So you're a board member of the Association of Cannabinoid Specialists.
Yes.
And that's a group that's led by Dr. Jordan Tischler.
Founded by and led by Jordan was Harvard Medical School educated, was in major hospitals like Brigham and Women's, working with veterans. Kind of noticed that he didn't have patients that had issues with cannabis, and did his own research and realized they weren't taught in medical school about endocannabinoid system or how cannabis works, and decided to dedicate himself to recommending cannabis. So he started a recommendation practice, then founded ACS, and really wants to take the approach of there's research, we should do more research, but we should take the research and educate anybody who's a clinician, anyone who's dealing with patients, and make sure they understand there's actual evidence of benefit. And our ultimate goal is to change this to an actual prescription versus a recommendation. Now, if we can get it to be a prescription, perhaps insurance subsidized as well. There's a lot going on there. That's a long-term goal.
Yeah.
But that's the mindset, that
he
doctors
has.
right now are a little concerned about recommending it. What evidence is there? How do I deal with patients in the clinical setting, which Dr. Tischler does himself. So he's very versed on how to approach patients with this, dosing, those kind of aspects. But I think I learned this recently. If it were truly a prescription, doctors actually have a duty to provide their patients all the alternatives. So instead of saying, well, these are the legal alternatives, I don't really want to talk about that one, which is sort of legal, but not federally legal, it would be in part of their portfolio. It would be natural for them to say, oh, this is an alternative for you. That's really our goal.
Yeah, to think that it's unfortunate that we're not there yet.
Right.
But we need to keep pushing it forward, because that's exactly where it needs to be, where somebody can come in and they can get their cannabis prescribed by a doctor, and then it can be subsidized by their insurance. I mean, if that's not happening, then what the fuck is a third party payer for?
Right.
And I know this because I'm obviously passionate.
Your old world here.
I'm very passionate about this. How what they will reimburse and formularies in the way that whole game is played. I think that it's disgusting, and I think that the I'm going to tell you one thing. They're going to have a lot of pushback on that, because how are they going to, where's their control? There's no pharmaceutical company that's controlling this. It's being grown, by people like you,
right?
By your company. And so it's just I don't see an avenue where, I see the avenue where we can make that happen, but they're not going to be very happy about it.
No, that's why it's a long-term goal, because there's going to be resistance on many levels.
Yep.
But to your point, and you're a former pharmacist, it just makes all the sense in the world why doctors would be resistant now and why they'd be less resistant if it were an actual prescription.
Yeah, well, that and it's really so stupid, that you have some doctors and that they'll, I was reading a little bit about Dr. Tischler, and a great point that he makes is he says it in his bio, that he never seen anybody die of an overdose from cannabis.
Right.
And that's really true. There's a lot of people who are suffering from addiction and from certain mental health issues where, they think, okay, only abstinence only model, do this. Your nervous system is so beyond fucked up, because you've been having all this trauma. You've been going through living your life this way. Remove everything, go, abstinence only, go to an AA meeting and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it's what if this person, sleep is a real thing, so if this person could take a little bit of cannabis and it could help them sleep and improve their quality of life,
right?
Well, not showing these, addictive qualities where it's not destroying their life, like something like cocaine or heroin or fentanyl, would. We have to keep pushing that forward.
Yeah. And there's plenty of evidence in states that legalize where those addiction rates have come down. And as a pharmacist, there's plenty of legal pharmaceuticals that are very, very dangerous. And if you take them the wrong way, they've got their own issues, even aside from addiction.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's very much so. Just the symptoms that all these drugs are causing. And sure, 15 to 20% of drugs out there are great. It's awesome that we have insulin. A type 1 diabetic can live. That's a giddy up.
Right.
But the fact that we have all these copycat drugs out there, and we have all this, a lot of these studies that, that are being put together are just being put together with end outcomes that they know are going to be reached, that are being manipulated, and it's only showing it might even be non-inferior,
right,
meaning
right.
that it's not even better, it's just not worse, and it still gets approved to market.
Yeah.
So there's just a bunch of bullshit in that.
We talked about it earlier. I'm a survey of one, but I would much rather do what I'm doing with cannabis to help me sleep than any kind of sleep aid that I could get prescribed, because they could be addictive or have other side effects.
Yeah.
So if there were nothing else, just allow cannabis to be prescribed to help sleep. That would be a huge thing.
It would literally just be such a huge thing. And I think it's cool. Who's making up this, this board of the ACS? It's you, Dr. Tischler.
Yeah. So the board and the membership are generally people in the healthcare industry, whether they're nurses or doctors or, people seeing patients, generally in some capacity. I am on the board, the only current operator. We're hoping to add someone also from the industry, which allows me to give that perspective. We say, hey, we'd like these things to happen. How's that going to affect the industry, or would the industry support that? I can kind of be the voice of that. But it is a big medical focus, and it's actually an international organization. Jordan just came back from South America, at a conference, and one of our board members is in South America, and she's been leading the way on changing laws, regulations in different South American countries. So
cool.
It's a tough boulder to move up that hill.
Yeah, exactly. And if if you guys need another person to help you push that boulder, I'm here for it. So.
All right, I'm going to sign you up right now.
Sign me up. Exactly. Giddy up. I'm here.
Yeah, excellent.
I think it's important to have somebody I'm a pharmacist with a Mass College of Pharmacy degree. That's good, sure. But across the street at Harvard Med was, people are going to respect that a little bit more. So I'm so glad that people like, Dr. Tischler are doing that. You got other doctors, up here we have Dustin Sulak. He's great from Healer, and, Benjamin Kaplan, he's coming out with a great book pretty soon. We're going to have him on the show as well. And
excellent.
You just need these, and I'd love to have Jordan on the show. That would be.
I'm sure he'd love to.
Okay, giddy up.
Right.
I think that it's the letting people know that there is studies out there that are show great benefit in a multitude of things, and also we need to start studying this way more than we are in specific ways, and then reporting on that data.
Right. Absolutely, and that's. One, Jordan is very focused on the research. So we are science-based, not anecdotal.
Yep.
And two, yes, we need to push for more research that has actual patients, that has actual setup of understanding the patient groups, the patient trials, and that it's legitimate kind of practice that you would expect for medicine.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. You just need to, you need to, I'm sure he's doing it all, 100%, setting up the studies appropriately and making sure, because that is what needs to be done. And I know recently, as of like a year ago, 2 years ago, you could only, if you wanted to federally study something, you could only get, cannabis from Mississippi. Like that's where it came from.
Absolutely.
Those licenses have now, increased, and, we're having other, people I know that they're growing over in Berwick, Maine now that, weed that can be federally studied.
Yeah. Another pioneer there I met very early on in my cannabis days, Dr. Sue Sisley out of Arizona. She was like the poster child of trying to do the right thing and having issues with the University of Arizona. But she was the first one that told me I can only get cannabis from University of Mississippi. Now it's really opened up in each state. DEA is allowing for that. So people are applying to be researchers, and we actually applied to be a provider.
Cool.
So don't know, where we are in the process. Hopefully we'll get that, but that'll be an interesting little twist, right, in the industry. Our customer will be the DEA if that application gets approved.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like that, and that's what we, what we need is for the listeners to like understand like why we're saying this is because the weed from Mississippi, the cannabis from Mississippi, it was being grown in one place by one person using one protocol, or maybe a couple different protocols over years, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
Cannabis isn't grown like that anymore. That cannabis was probably at 18, 19% THC. We're now growing cannabis at 30% THC.
It's probably lower than that. It was all outdoor.
So, it was all outdoor. So it probably was even lower than that.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion about outdoor cannabis and sun grown cannabis versus indoor cannabis?
I think we should be doing all those things as an industry. One, there's an obviously energy efficiency part of that component, but on a cost basis, to do outdoor for extraction is fantastic. It's limited in terms of smokability, the percentage you'll get out of outdoor that people will enjoy, which is why we're certainly going to stick with indoor. We haven't done it yet, but I do like the hybrid greenhouse model where you have natural sunlight, but you have a contained indoor grow space, so you eliminate some of the issues with outdoor. But I think, all those things need to happen for different parts of the product that we make or what people want.
Yeah, I think so. I know that like with, you do the smokability is definitely different with indoor grown cannabis versus, outdoor grown flower. But concentrates, some of them sometimes I'm seeing like better numbers with, with outdoor grown cannabis because you're getting, a more full spectrum, you're getting more of the cannabinoids and, that can definitely be better. Yeah.
And just like any crop, it takes people who really know what they're doing to make that outcome what you're describing.
Yeah, 100%. The growers who are really good and who are being innovative and not relying on the grow store, learning how to regenerate their soil. Those are going to be the guys that are still around.
Right.
When it's all said and done.
Yeah, the nutrients, how do we deal with the regulations relative to pesticides? You got to be really dialed in.
Yeah. Right. What's your take on like where we're going with federal legalization? I think that like obviously a place like Massachusetts, like for instance Oklahoma just giving out unlimited licenses where they have unlimited sun and unlimited land. So that's a place where if federal legalization did happen and Oklahoma got good at growing cannabis like Maine and Massachusetts, then they might be able to supplant that market, pretty easily because they're growing pounds, for very, very cheap.
Right. That is the big issue. In early days in 2014, 15, when I started, Oregon, Washington, Humboldt, California, they were all talking about wanting to be the breadbasket for America. When this is federally legal, we can grow outdoor. We'll grow to much less cost per gram. I expect if it were to legalize that you will find, just like any other product that we buy on the supermarket shelves, factories will develop that can do this at the lowest cost. I think there will also be room for kind of the craft beer style companies like us who want to stay in the business, but will market themselves as being the local guys, the craft beer kind of company. I really don't think national legalization with the ability to move product across states, interstate commerce, is anytime soon.
Yeah, it's not close, I don't think.
I really thought banking laws would change by now. I'm really kind of surprised that we're sitting here in 2023 and we can't get the safe banking laws in place.
Is that coming though? Is that
they punted again?
Oh, they punted again. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's just being pushed forward again.
We'll see, but maybe 2023. I don't know. I was surprised it didn't happen at the end of last year.
Yeah, it sounds brutal. It's just it's so slow, and it's because there's so much just clogged up at the top there. I think I get it. Like you want as somebody Berkshire Roots, and maybe there. I've talked about this with a few people on the show, like federal legalization, like where full interstate commerce, like it's got to be a long way off because so many people have put so much money into into creating these companies and creating this industry.
Right.
That you can't do that to somebody where Oklahoma could come in and completely wipe out their business in a month.
Yeah. I mean, it could happen.
Well, it could.
One of the reasons I don't think interstate commerce is around the corner because we still have so many states that it's illegal.
Right.
So then those states, their representatives in Congress and the Senate will be balking at not wanting that to be free flowing through their state, which doesn't allow it. Mm-hmm. So even if it's like interstate commerce, but states' rights, it's going to cause a lot of transportation problems that I don't think the federal government's prepared to work around.
Yeah, they struggle to work through something. So something of this magnitude, I think, would be pretty challenging for them to. Yeah, and it's like kind of just better to leave it up to the states at this point. It's like maybe some of these states they decide, okay, it's federal legal now. I do want to come on board. So okay, some place like.
Well, so like Texas is kind of on that.
They're close.
We allow some THC. If it were federally legal, would they say, okay, we might as well allow it? I don't know. They probably would stand on the position they have. Might be my guess,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think probably, and then, or maybe they say, okay, you have somebody who goes, and then you partner states, and you have one state who can grow because we don't get that much sun up here,
right? And
whatever. Only those two states can do interstate commerce between each other. It's weird,
Some states have tried that. They haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, so that's something that's already in the works.
Yeah, so even years ago, but I think recently 2 states got together and said, hey, federal government, we're going to do this. You don't have any say about it. And the federal government said, yes, we do. And so it didn't happen.
Right. So it's so funny. I was on somebody's show the other night who told me, with the whole D8 thing and the 2008 Farm Bill, there some people are right now trying to say that because THCA, before it's decarbed, it's THCA. Mm-hmm. And so that's not illegal. So people are trying to say that flour, they can ship flour wherever they want. They can sell flour wherever they want because it's not Delta 9 THC, which is the illegal, component.
Which actually I do believe that with a clone, with seed, with something that's inert, it should be able to be moved around.
I agree with that. I think that's a, cool thing. In Europe, we've been talking a lot about like medicine and how we're, trying to push different modalities forward. And I'm huge about that. And so, I hope you're comfortable with me asking you this, but if you're not, just say no. But in Maine, one of the reasons why I'm here and one of the reasons why I decided to bring my business here was because another medicine that, like cannabis, is starting to be available to people that is going to be a huge market is psilocybin. Mushrooms.
Yeah, I was introduced to the concept many years ago. A company I was working with in Canada, one of the principals I was working with moved to a company early, 3 years ago. It was doing that. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I learned a little bit, through him. I don't have a particular position on it. I haven't really thought about it. I see, right now that it's a guided experience, but people are advocating it doesn't have to be. So I don't really know.
Okay, cool.
Would love to talk to you about it in the future, but I don't really have a working knowledge of how that might become a commercial product.
Okay, yeah. So, but you're open to it.
Yeah, I mean,
if it can be helpful.
From what I have seen in the people who have these great outcomes, like, why would you suppress this?
James, it's right. Actually wild. Where, like I was saying earlier, like in some pharmaceutical studies, like we're trying to either be non-inferior or we're trying to get a 2 to 3% end outcome.
Right.
With some of the early studies that we're seeing with psychedelics, and not just psilocybin, but also with ketamine and MDMA and some of these other products that they have out there, we're seeing like 50 to 60% reduction in depression and anxiety and PTSD. With ketamine, we're seeing instant reversal of long-term depression. And these are medicines that are PRN as needed. Right.
Yeah, and I told you my kids are in their 30s, so that generation, the generation behind them, there just seems to be more and more focus on anxiety, depression, whatever the experience is, the life experience they're having. If there's a way to stall that, improve that, figure out how to treat that, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think, you guys just put up with it forever. Your generation, got,
just soldier on.
Yeah. So, put on your boots. That's what it was. For my dad, strap on your boots and you go to work no matter what, no matter how depressed or shitty or whatever you're feeling.
Right.
In my generation and the generation that's even younger that's just not the case. It shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be that way. It's growth. It's showing that your generation has showed us, like, you've done something for us that we say, okay, even though we're yelling at you guys about it and saying, oh, we want to do this. Let us do the mushroom, let us do mushrooms, we just, you guys helped us, you paved that way. And, the generation, 30 years from now, I'll be sitting in your seat and, we'll have you save, not quite 30, don't let me age you too much.
Right.
But yeah, I think that I'm super passionate about it because it's, I started with honey and then I started to say, okay, well, if I'm doing this, I'm going holistic and I'm the biggest believer in cannabis, so let's do cannabis. And, in that, I had been planning because I know, Oregon, Maine has put it in through its legislation. It's legislator. It's gone through the House. It lost in the Senate,
right.
But it means it's going to be back. And there's, the lobbying groups are getting larger. And, we had the first annual Maine Fungi Fest last year.
Fungi Fest, I like that.
Yeah, we're doing the second one this year, which is gonna be awesome.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, the city of Cambridge in Massachusetts is allowing it. I don't know under what parameters, but that would be a good test case for Massachusetts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do think I heard that. It's what a good place for it. Or Harvard and MIT. Where all people are really smart, and it's where it should be happening. Well, maybe not, because Timothy Leary kind of he kind of fucked it up a little bit. He was good, but he was good because he was helping people understand it, but he just was he was just too out there a little bit. He needed, like you said, most people, it's a guided, something that's guided, and at least at first, definitely something that you wanted to be guided through.
Right.
But it's not something that's necessary. There's a lot of microdosing and stuff like that. There's tons of application for that where you're not even, even somebody who's never taken this before, you're not, you might not even feel a direct shift in anything. Right. You're just going to literally, because you took a 0.1 gram of psilocybin, you might feel a little bit more bubbly, a little bit happier.
Right.
Which is not something that you see when you take an SSRI. It's quite the opposite.
So microdosing is one way to figure out how to commercialize it without it being guided. So it'd be really, really interesting to see how this develops in like the cannabis industry. Bifurcations, trifurcations, like how many different aspects of this. Oh, there's, this guided part and there's this go low and slow part. I don't know.
Yeah, right. And it's how it's going to have to be. And I think like just destigmatizing it is like one of the main things that we have to do. And that's because right now people think, especially older people, they think like, oh, if I take mushrooms, I'm going to have a trip. My parents, my mom has stage 4 cancer, and one of the biggest, like, brain and lung, like, on the way out, I love you so much, Mom, so much. But the biggest application that we've seen so far is helping people deal with end of life stress.
Oh, wow.
With death, imminent death. It's because it helps them realize that,
right.
What it does for me, when I partake is it helps shift perception.
Right.
You say this problem was unsolvable to Steven yesterday.
Right.
But today I'm not even looking at that. The problem is the solution. It's not, I just need to look at it a different way. That's it. It is that simple. And I don't know why my brain couldn't do that yesterday.
I know. It is a great perspective. Right now it's for me, the sun, like the sun's still up. There's this problem. The sun goes down. Sun comes up again the next day. Oh, wait a minute. That problem doesn't seem as bad as it did yesterday. What happened?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's a great way. I think, and a lot of people like, that's great that you can do that naturally. And I think I can do that naturally now because the mushrooms help teach me that, that, okay, right. Everything, you don't have to be too stressed out. Tomorrow's another day. Everything's going to be all right. You just have to have a different perspective. Try to work it. Try to look at it a different way, because getting anxious is just going to create anxiety, which is just going to make everything worse.
Yeah. This may be apropos of nothing, but I happened to be listening audiobook to John Adams, the David McCullough book.
Cool. Yeah.
Years ago. And, his perspective in his later years when he had a bad relationship with Thomas Jefferson after having a wonderful relationship with him was that's all in the past. We were politicians. He said things about me because he wanted to become president. I would too. Like, now we can be friends.
Wow.
So
Okay.
just that mindset shift of people, obviously at a certain intelligence level too, that things aren't as bad as you think they are. They're maybe not as good as you think they are either. Like, it's life. Stuff happens.
So he wasn't. So he wasn't actually mad at Jefferson.
Yeah, in their later
end.
years, they're retired from politics. Like, let's go back to being friends.
So they did become friends again.
Oh, for many years wrote letters.
Oh,
they didn't,
cool.
They were older. They didn't go visit each other, but they were writing letters for many years.
Oh, cool. So I've been getting more into history, and I think John Adams is just so fascinating, of course. And to Thomas Jefferson as well. So it's just, those two men and their relationship, exactly. Sometimes it's not all bad, and it's not all, that's a great perspective to have from a great founding mind of the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's kind of what we got going on here, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams,
If only.
Giddy up.
Yeah.
So we think that, do you think that cannabis and psilocybin will, do you think those two industries will mesh?
The regulators obviously have their self-interest. So if they think this should be regulated, we can gain something from it, someday, it could be folded in there. If they think this is not cannabis, we only want to deal with cannabis, it might end up in some other party's regulatory sphere. We'll see,
Yeah, because I one of my goals and one of my my long-term goals is to have a BeeWell retreat or BeeWell retreat center or BeeWell sanctuary where people come and there's all these different healing modalities. They can come and they can do yoga, they can do movement, they can do kin stretch, they can do weightlifting, they can do swimming, and at the same time they're getting guided meditations, or they're learning how to meditate on their own.
Right. Or
there's space where they can go and do psilocybin. There's space where we have ketamine professionals on site. There's tons of cannabis being grown locally there. We're growing some of the food there locally.
Right.
We're helping a community, and we're creating this place where people can go and find space and get away from, because technology is not going anywhere. And the rat race is just gonna keep getting, harder and more and challenging for us human beings to live in it.
Right.
So we just gotta learn how to do that. And I think giving ourselves that space, and sometimes, using some of the medicines that the natural world provided for us, that's really the giddy up.
Yeah, so that would require some loosening of the idea that maybe some of this doesn't need to be regulated.
Yeah.
If people have good judgment and they can go to a place like that and use their judgment, maybe that should just be how it gets done.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think with this, it's what about what do you think about that in regard to cannabis though? Because obviously we're a lot further than that. We're way past that now. It can't be that model, but it kind of is that model. In some places in Maine, if you want to grow your own in Mass, if you want to grow your own cannabis, you just have to get your card and you can grow your 6 plants. And
it's this weird set of stuff that we have going on. The stew, right? We have this highly regulated part of the industry for companies like ours. All this licensing and renewal and inspections, and there's rules on the books that say you can grow it at home. And do what you want to do, make whatever you want out of it. It's just very odd.
Right.
But you can do that with normal products, let's call it. There's factories that make bread and they have to follow OSHA rules and FDA rules, and you can make bread at home.
Yeah, right.
So as long as they don't stop you from making bread at home or stop you from growing your own, then, we're kind of working in this weird stew.
Yeah, don't let us make our own bread. Let's let us make our own bread. Let us do, let's just get as much bread out there as we can in a safe way for the people.
But the reason that bread exists on supermarket shelves is not everybody wants to, not everybody's capable to, not everybody has the time to.
Right.
People come up with innovative products that you wouldn't have thought of at home.
Yeah.
So you need both.
Yeah, exactly. You need both. It's, not everyone's gonna, with cannabis, yes, but with mushrooms, and psilocybin, not everyone's gonna want to start a mushroom grow in their basement, know. But they still need access to this medicine. And that's one thing that I'm really focused on is access. Mm-hmm. And that's a thing, because say someone doesn't have, they don't have the money to come in and get the cannabis from Berkshire Roots. They don't have the money to come in and get, a dosage of psilocybin. That those people who probably need it the most, are going to have a disadvantage to getting it.
Yeah. So circle back. If you truly need it as a medicine, then why isn't it covered by insurance? You're getting subsidized. So that's, a $5, $10 copay, whatever it is.
Yeah, right. We need to push for that. And I think that, I think I would like to, be a part of that long-term goal with you and Jordan.
Yeah. Excellent.
That has to happen. And if it's not the case the insurance company is such bullshit. So it's like, if they'll pay for your prescription right away, but if you want to get a gym membership, you got to send in 10 forms, to get that reimbursed for $100, and you got to do it every month.
Right.
So that let's make it really easy on people to get some better food. Let's subsidize some food. Let's subsidize real medicine for them. And then you can do the pills thing too. You can, because they have their application. I don't think that it is 2023. It's amazing that we have, especially a lot of the surgeries and a lot of the processes that we've invented. Like, it's incredible,
Right. Yeah.
I've gotten more time with my mom, even though it hasn't necessarily been great for her. She's been on chemotherapy and stuff every 3 weeks for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But she's here, and we've spent time, we've had conversations that we wouldn't have been able to have otherwise.
Right.
So that's great. That's a giddy up.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that before that, or that my dad, it was, before he stopped working, but before he could start exercising, the poor guy was on 12, 13 medicines,
Right.
Now he's on 2, because he's able to spend the time to exercise, and he wasn't
Great. Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah.
He's got his body fixed a little bit, he was a tie the boots up type of guy, so once he retired and got his body fixed a little bit, now
Right.
and I just want that to be, possible for everybody.
Yeah. And you mentioned access. So I think all of these avenues should be available to people. I want to pay a little more and know that it came from a place that operated a certain way and made this product a certain way, and I don't have the time or patience to do it myself, or I want that, but I need subsidies, or I just want to do it on my own. As long as all these avenues are available and the access is there, however you want to get it, that would be the ultimate.
Yeah, I think that's maybe that's why I like you so much, dude. Because when you have that opinion, you're the CEO of a top 10 company, and most people are going to just be thinking about profit and profit. And you're here telling me, no, I actually care about the medicine. I care about what, people having access to it. And if they don't come to my store, that's okay. They still need to get it. So just, grow it on their own. Or I just respect you so much for that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but it just seems natural to me because people are not the same. They have different wants, desires, tolerance, so let's give them all of the stuff available and let them choose.
Yeah, we keep trying to do that with everything. We try to make these cookie cutter models that are, business that works for everybody. And most stuff like that's actually helping you and healing you, it doesn't work that way. With yoga, for instance, yoga is not a one fit all model. You need to try different types of yoga, and you need to go and do it in different ways and see different teachers, and not get into a place where they are just caring about the profit.
Yeah.
And I see this in all the stuff that I talk about on the show, with all these health modalities, there's a lot of stuff that you kind of have to wade through a little bit.
Right.
And just making it, easy for people so that they can make the best decisions, for what they need, because they're different.
Right.
Is
So,
the way to go.
that's kind of like the regulatory part, the laws. As a commercial business, our job is just to make sure you use the term product first, which is my term. We create really great products and people like them and want them. That's really our only job.
Create products that people like and want.
Right.
And that's exactly what you guys are doing. It's exactly why, I'm so glad to be doing business with you, and so glad so happy to see so excited to see, what's going to happen next and where this is going to go, and, where the industry might land, and, to have some fun doing it with people like you is cool, opposed to just being stressed out all the time.
Yeah. It's stressful, but we are in the cannabis industry, and we remind ourselves of that, and we do try and have fun. And can't wait to get your products out there and see, how the world responds, because I think they're great. And then just, generally in 2014, 2015, I don't think I could have imagined where this Massachusetts market would have gone, New England in general. We talked about this a little bit. New Hampshire's kind of a holdout, but,
Yeah.
Rhode Island, Connecticut. I told you we're on the border of New York, so I'll include New York in the Northeast, Maine, Vermont. How did this happen?
How did it happen? It's and also New Hampshire, come on, we're looking to get Wendy Thomas, who sponsored the bill that actually looks like the best one so far. Before these guys were trying to give licenses just to the liquor stores, and there was craziness out there.
Right.
I think it was actually Jacob, our producer, who suggested to Governor Sununu when he was interviewing him. And when was it, Jacob?
If I remember correctly, it was 2015, but it might have been 2016.
Yeah, so
Been a few years.
Been a few years. And Jacob was, saying to him, like, well, you already have the infrastructure. Why don't you just get the licenses? And he was like, oh, no one's ever suggested that to me before.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that. And then they did it, but they did it the wrong way by just making it exclusive to the state. If you want to play, then just let us play too. You can grow and you can do your thing in the liquor store, but I should be able to open up a private business as well.
Yeah.
And the new ones kind of say that. The new law the new legislation that's being put forth is exactly that. It's home grows, private licenses. And if the state wanted to do it, they could essentially go through the same process as everyone else.
Yeah. If they do the other two, they won't end up doing it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Highly doubtful. Yeah. Right. When you have competent, educated people who want to do something, opposed to it being run by people who don't care as much about it or don't have any passion, it's just never going to be a successful model.
Right.
So speaking of a little bit of fun,
yes,
I wanted to. You're part of your band, Midlife Crisis.
Yes.
I wanted to put it up on the TV here. We got a cool little video. This is James wrote this song. You guys usually do cover bands, right?
We are a cover band. It is a little bucket list item that my band willingly said, we'll learn it and play it. And this was our introduction to a original playing out. Okay,
giddy up. We're gonna listen to this for a minute.
Great band. The band celebrated its 20th anniversary last year.
Incredible.
And I've been in the band 14 years.
Wow.
So two of the founding members are the guitarist and the bass player. So they started the band, 20 years ago. So the three of us, though, have been playing 14 years together.
Wow.
And then the other people in the band, quite a number of years now. But having that core drummer, guitarist, bass player playing together for 14 years, one of the big compliments that we love is when people say, you guys are really tight. It's like, yeah, we practice a lot. We want those beginnings, the endings, transitions, stops,
Yeah, man.
So it's a lot of fun. And after doing it for so long and playing a lot of the same songs over and over, we almost have it.
Yeah, almost. I think it's great that they they helped you scratch off one of those things off your bucket list, because
absolutely
it takes time to practice that stuff. Usually as a cover band you're practicing, but a lot of times you can just show up for a set and show up for a gig and bang it out, right? That's how it goes.
Not usually for us.
Oh, okay.
We like to have a good practice session before we have a gig, and again, that's how you get that tightness.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think that maybe just the bands that I'm listening to down at the Thirsty Moose, and no disrespect to them, because I love them and I love to go dance with them, and they're great.
Right.
But that's generally what they tell me. There's no time to practice.
Yeah.
But no, that's great.
Yeah, we try and get together once a week, so it's it's like my bowling league, and the old days, like, hey honey, I'm going bowling. You're like, yeah, I'm going to rehearsal. And
you mean the olden days? Me and my buddy Al. We were at bowling league last night.
Oh, you are? Good. Okay. So people still do that.
Yeah. And bowling league is great because it used to be great, and I wish people would do it more. We need something that's, more, maybe we get cannabis and bowling together, smoke and bowl, but it's smoke a bowl.
Yeah.
There was actually a book written about it, that I read once, and it's like, it would bring together doctors with a person who's working at a cashier at a register, with a housewife, with with all these, with the CEO of this company, with all these different walks of life.
Yep.
And so you get to really see that people, we're not different. We're actually all the same, and we have the same problems, and we have the same bullshit. So bowling league was like, we need more of that in the community. We need to come together, and it's why me and my buddy Al do it, so we can stay engaged.
Yeah, it's just a great bonding. So those people in my band. They're my teammates, if it's a sports analogy. And I just love having that opportunity once a week to get together with them and do something we all have in common.
Yeah.
And have fun doing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I hope I'll get to see you play. I hope that I'll get to actually see you play in Rebel House, where we record the podcast.
That would be fun. It looks like a great little venue here.
Yeah, man, I would love for you guys to come up. We'll have to plan something at some point, this summer or something, and get you guys to come up. And we have a couple of the CEOs who are not the main companies that we deal with that also play in bands, so we can do a cannabis duel of the bands.
Little jam.
Yeah, exactly. Little giddy up.
Right.
Yeah, I want to thank you, so much for coming on the show today. It was absolutely incredible. I know that like our relationship is just beginning, personally and professionally. I think that you are a person that I've already learned so much from, in the demeanor and the way that you treat people, the way that you treat your partners, the way that you constantly are able to just move everybody towards the end zone. I think for another sports analogy, I think is incredible. Right. I want to let the people know that you're an awesome guy who crushing music, and that's who James Winokur is, man. He's a music guy. He's crushing it. He's helping people. He's not some stooge CEO, some corporate CEO out there, like a lot of these cannabis companies are, that didn't come from the family roots.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, just me. Yes, I have that title, but I just love being in business and trying to figure out what people want and making that happen,
No, that's it, man. I think you told that story today, and I think that's definitely gonna come across to people, and that's just how you wanted to do it since the beginning. And you had a really cool partner who helped make that happen. Who I also am blessed to have that as well. Love you, Kayla. Giddy up. So James, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I cannot thank you enough. I cannot wait to do it again. I can't wait to have the products in the store and to continue to grow our relationship and to help everyone be well.
I appreciate you having me, and we'll definitely want to come back when we have some time under our belt. Products went on the shelf, and you can tell your story about what it's like to go in stores in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, hell yeah. I think that's exactly everybody. The next time that we'll have James on is, a couple months from now after I have, after I've been in market from Massachusetts and been crushing it there. And we can talk about that experience a little bit, and we can go from there.
That'd be great.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. You guys, the community, you're the ones who help make this happen. We always want to help people be well. That's individuals, the community, and society as a whole. If you're struggling at all with anything, reach out to us. We'd love to help you. Love to try to put you in touch with whoever we can. It's a giddy up. So appreciate everybody. Appreciate you, James. Giddy up. Be well.